So as most of you guys who have been watching the channel for quite a while would know now, I am an extremely big Star Wars fan. Like, I have been a massive Star Wars fan ever since I was growing up, where I became a huge fan of Star Wars, the Clone Wars, as well as the prequels and original movies, mainly because my dad decided to go forklift like $110 out at this store just to buy this like 6-movie Blu-ray edition of episodes 1 through 6, and I was just sitting there, man. My dad used to be a security guard, so he was always working night shift, and while he was snoring like literally as loud as a fucking AC/DC concert, I was sitting there, you know, admiring Anakin Skywalker for being an incredible, you know, Jedi, and then admiring Padme for being, well, yeah, she was pretty fucking hot. So again, I've been a massive Star Wars fan since I can remember, and of course, Star Wars in today's day and age has gone through a lot of highs and a lot of lows. For example, when Disney took over Star Wars, it looked like things were doing awesome. We had Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars Episode 7, and Star Wars Rogue One, which were fantastic starts to the franchise, you know, to the Disney side of things, right? And then we got Episode 8, which I still think is probably the worst one, and then Solo, which wasn't that bad, but again, still wasn't good, and then Episode 9, which we know was a train wreck. Since then, they somewhat revived Star Wars with The Mandalorian a couple years later, being by far probably the biggest thing they've done since, again, they bought the franchise. I mean, you can't go anywhere, or can't even go on a Facebook without seeing some middle-aged woman above the age of 30 just creaming her pants with garlic aioli sauce about Baby Yoda. Again, a couple things have happened since then, but more recently, we've had a couple of Star Wars announcements to do with the new Dave Filoni film. Episode 10 looks like it's in production. Lando looks like it's happening. A couple of other things. So I thought it would be really fun if I gave you guys my thoughts and opinions on future Star Wars projects that I would very much like to see, that I think Disney must create. Because I'm going to be honest, again, I love The Mandalorian. I love Ahsoka for the majority of it so far. I wasn't a big fan of Obi-Wan, Andor. I know a lot of people love Andor, but oh my god, I nearly fall asleep every time I watch it. I guess Andor's just not for me. Obi-Wan's the big one. I felt like half of it was just a load of shit. And then Book of Boba Fett was, yeah, they kind of did my boy Tamara Morrison extremely wrong with that. But again, there's been a lot of good and a lot of bad. But I think if they listened to me and Kathleen Kennedy got the fuck out of here, and you hired me, well, maybe I could do a pretty good job. And the first and foremost, we're going to start off with number one on what I think they should be creating. And I'm actually going to be starting off with a TV series I highly believe would be a massive success if they did this, and that would, of course, be a Darth Vader series. Now, I don't think this series has to be MA-15 or R, like a lot of people are saying it is. You can get away with a lot of really awesome and gritty stuff with an M rating. I mean, The Mandalorian has done it for the most part, and so many other famous movies and TV shows have as well. Again, I think a Vader series would be really awesome, and there will be some people out there that will be like, oh my god, man, we had 6 movies about Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. Oh man, there's Ahsoka's mostly about Anakin. You know, geez, how much can we have? And I'm telling you right now, we haven't even scratched the surface on what Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker is like in film. Again, there's a whole entire comic book series out there literally going over what happened to Darth Vader after Revenge of the Sith and before Obi-Wan Kenobi in Episode 4. That is canon, that Disney did make, and there's a lot of really, really interesting stuff in there. Even the Legends ones. Again, there is literally a comic book where Darth Vader is trying to visit the grave of Padme. It's extremely emotional because a lot of the guards who are protecting it are trying to kill him, and the realistic thing was, he knew the guards, and the guards knew him, and as one of them is literally dying, they say for Padme, for Anakin, and he's basically just killed a guy that is trying to protect his former own honor and name. Again, there's a lot of really emotional stuff that we've never seen. Again, Darth Vader visiting the grave of Padme. Darth Vader, you know, realizing what he's become. Darth Vader hunting down all of the Jedi that we've never seen on camera. The insane abilities that he has with the Force, we've only truly just somewhat dived into on TV and movies, again being mainly Darth Vader and the hallway scene in Rogue One, and Darth Vader bringing that ship down in Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Again, both of them are really good, but there's 20 times better things in these comics that Darth Vader has done off screen with the Force, and among other things like hunting down Jedi, dealing with grief and depression that he of course goes through that we have not seen yet. Again, I don't think this should be a movie. I think this would be much better suited as like a TV series that goes up over around 6 episodes, near about an hour long. Again, I think a lot of people would really like to see how he, again, dealt with becoming Darth Vader and Padme's death, and of course hunting down all the Jedi and literally destroying the order that he grew up apart. That would be first and foremost the main thing that I would really like to see. I think a lot of people would like to see that, so it's definitely up there in a common thing people want. But with my number 2, a less common thing that not a whole lot of people want that I really want is actually the Book of Boba Fett Season 2. Now, you might have just done the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson eye smolder thing at me, and look, that's fine. Look, I even said at the start of this video that I was not a fan with the Book of Boba Fett Season 1. I thought it was pretty shit. I mean, yeah, it smelled like stage 8 diarrhea coming out of a fat kid in the playground. So, it's obviously not great. But there is a lot they can do with Season 2. I think with Season 1, they kind of learnt what works and what doesn't. And look, I'm not necessarily saying it has to be a Season 2. I still think you could turn this into a movie or its own separate entity from the Book of Boba Fett. Just because the Book of Boba Fett has a little bit of controversy surrounding its name now, you could just turn this into the original Boba Fett movie idea that it was supposed to be. Again, it doesn't have to be MA-15 or R-rated to be a good movie. You can have a mature movie of Boba Fett. Again, I think leaving Tatooine from the Book of Boba Fett, maybe he realizes it's not what he necessarily wants to do, or maybe he has to go deal with some business. And I think this would be an awesome way to introduce Mace Windu. I think if you were going to make this as a movie, how awesome would it be if we got to see Boba Fett maybe try and get word that Mace Windu was somehow still alive, and of course went and hunted him down to protect his, to get his father's legacy back. Again, I believe this will have been, at the time of when the Book of Boba Fett takes place, I think it's about 30 to 35 years after what, of course, Episode 3 is. So look, Mace Windu might be about nearly 70 by now, but it has been talked about. There is tons of Jedi out there, again, who are like 70, 75 years of age, maybe even a little bit older, that are still really insane with their Jedi or Force abilities. Look at Emperor Palpatine, who's like 100, and look at Count Dooku, who's like 80, 85, I swear. I don't actually know what he's supposed to be, but god damn it, he looks old as fuck. Essentially, you could still do that with Mace Windu coming into this Book of Boba Fett. I think having a movie or season of, and I still think this could actually work better as a movie, of Tamora Morrison as Boba Fett going and hunting down Mace Windu, played by Samuel Jackson again, would be a massive plot twist, a turn of events, a movie that I think a lot of people would actually really like to go see, especially if it's a lot darker like the first Mandalorian 2 seasons were. This is something that I definitely think a lot of people can get behind. If they don't want to do that idea, they want to stick to maybe something different. It's probably not going to be a movie. I think a movie, you'd have to have someone like Mace Windu in it. Again, maybe a Book of Boba Fett Season 2 of him just becoming a bounty hunter again. Look, maybe the Season 2 hints at a Mace Windu that turns into a movie. I don't know. That would just be something that I think would be really awesome. And the other thing that I'd like to talk about in this video is the Old Republic. Now, there's a lot of issues with the Old Republic, right? The Old Republic is 99% just not canon anymore. Those games are all not canon. none of that is like canon. I think there's a bunch of comic books and stuff that reference it all and yada yada yada, whatever, right? I genuinely think though, the Old Republic movies 5 years ago would have been a turning point that would have somewhat saved Star Wars. We of course got Mandalorian, which did that. The Old Republic, I feel like, doesn't have as much hype as what it did years and years ago. I mean, I think people just lost hope for the most part. But seeing what the Jedi Order and the Sith Order, a bunch of different Sith, just like the video game, but, you know, of course, thousands of years or whatever it is before Episode 1 takes place of Star Wars, would be a highly interesting idea. Again, they're doing something similar to this with James Mangold, of course, directing his own Star Wars movie, which I think will be awesome, about the first ever Jedi who discovers the Force. Again, I really liked Indiana Jones 5, and a couple other projects Mangold has done. I think he could do really, really well with this. That's somewhat, I think, you know, a hint that we're getting some older stuff. But how awesome would it be if maybe at the end of this movie, it maybe hinted at an Old Republic trilogy? Again, I still think there's a lot of room for an Old Republic movies to be made. And if this movie does really well by James Mangold, like let's just say it makes above 400 to 500 million, which I still think it could very well with some good advertising, I think that should give them enough room to be like, look, we got to make an Old Republic movie now, because I think that'd be a really, really good idea. Again, I don't want to speak too much on the Old Republic because I'm not as big of a fan as a lot of people are of it. I haven't done an extreme amount of research. I've definitely played a bit of the games and I know all the cutscenes and all that type of stuff. But again, I still think it should be made, and I'm very big on it. Will Disney ever do it? I probably would have said no a couple years ago, but now with this James Mangold project coming out, looks like they're somewhat building up to it, which I think would be really, really awesome. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I will be having another Star Wars video come out. I think I'm going to do it shortly after this, where I'm going to talk about why I think Dave Filoni's, Star Wars movie could be the best Star Wars movie yet. Again, that will be coming out probably a bit after this, maybe a week or so. I'm not exactly too sure. So definitely stay tuned for that by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so you guys don't miss another upload. And just comment your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you guys think about, my opinions on future Star Wars projects that should be getting made? I'd very much like to know. Don't forget to subscribe to my sports channel and my IRL/Long channels. Links for them will be getting put in the description down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.